never rat on your friends, and always keep your mouth shut.
Goodfellas is a 1990 American biographical crime drama film directed by Martin Scorsese, written by Nicholas Pileggi and Scorsese, and produced by Irwin Winkler. The film narrates the rise and fall of mob associate Henry Hill and his friends and family from 1955 to 1980. Plot: in 1955, youngster Henry Hill becomes enamored by the criminal life and mafia presence in his working-class Italian-American neighborhood in Brooklyn. He begins working for local capo regime Paulie Cicero and his associates, Jimmy the Gent Conway, an Irish-American truck hijacker and gangster, and Tommy DeVito, a fellow juvenile delinquent. Henry begins as a fence for Jimmy, gradually working his way up to more serious crimes. By the 1960s, the three associates spend most of their nights Copacabana nightclub carousing with women. Henry starts dating Karen Friedman, a Jewish woman from an upper-middle-class family, but she is initially angered by how distracted Henry is during their first date. When he later turns on the charm and shows her the glamorous side of his lifestyle, she falls in love with him. Sometime later, Karen calls Henry in tears, having been sexually accosted by the son of her parents' neighbor. Henry immediately finds the young man and beats him bloody with a revolver, which he then tells Karen to hide. She admits to herself that it actually turned her on, and they get married shortly thereafter despite her parents' disapproval. After the wedding, she slowly learns more and more about Henry's criminal enterprises, but she comes to rationalize the gangster lifestyle. In 1970, Billy Batts, a made man in the Gambino crime family recently released from prison, insults and demeans Tommy at a nightclub owned by Henry. Tommy and Jimmy beat, stab, and fatally shoot Billy. The unsanctioned murder of a made man invites retribution. Realizing this, Jimmy, Henry, and Tommy bury the body in upstate New York. 6 months later, however, Jimmy learns that the burial site is slated for development, forcing them to exhume and relocate the decomposing corpse. Later, Henry witnesses Tommy murder Spider, an errand boy, after exchanging insults with him during a card game. Karen discovers Henry has a mistress and threatens him at gunpoint. Henry moves in with his mistress, but Paulie insists that he should return to Karen after collecting a debt from a gambler in Tampa with Jimmy. The collection mission succeeds, but only after they have severely beaten the debtor and held him over the edge of the wall to the lion's pen at the local zoo. Upon returning, Jimmy and Henry are arrested after being turned in by the gambler's sister, an FBI typist, and they receive 10-year prison sentences. Prison life is initially depicted as idyllic, with Henry sharing a very large cell with Paulie and several other well-connected mobsters currently in prison for other crimes. They cook their own Italian gourmet dinners every evening with smuggled-in ingredients, wine, and whiskey, and all the prison guards are bribed to look the other way. To finance his prison life and support his family on the outside, Henry has Karen smuggle in food and drugs, which he sells in cooperation with a fellow inmate from Pittsburgh and a bribed member of the prison staff. Karen discovers that Henry's mistress has been visiting him and almost publicly exposes the smuggled goods as revenge, but Henry quickly placates her by promising that he will from now on be faithful, and that his drug deals will make them enough money to support the family without anyone finding out. 4 years later, in 1978, Henry is paroled and secretly expands his cocaine business with Jimmy and Tommy against Paulie's orders. Jimmy organizes a crew to raid the Lufthansa vault at John F. Kennedy International Airport, stealing over $6 million in cash and jewelry. After some members purchase expensive items against Jimmy's orders and the getaway truck is found by police, he has most of the crew murdered except Tommy and Henry. According to Henry, Jimmy did prefer killing his partners rather than sharing all the money from the heist with them. Tommy is later deceived by the mafia leadership into believing he is to become a made man and is murdered after walking into the room of the ceremony as retribution for murdering bats and other infractions against the organization. The otherwise cold-hearted Jimmy grieves his friend but knows he can do nothing to revenge himself on the leaders of the mafia families. By 1980, Henry develops a drug habit and becomes a paranoid wreck. He does, however, continue his profitable drug business together with his Pittsburgh associates and his mistress until he is suddenly arrested by narcotics agents and incarcerated. After bailing him out, Karen reveals that she flushed $60,000 worth of cocaine down the toilet to prevent FBI agents from finding it during their raid, leaving them penniless. Paulie reproaches Henry for dealing drugs behind his back and severs their relationship with $3,200. Karen goes to Jimmy for help, but eventually flees upon suspecting a trap to murder her. Henry later meets Jimmy at a diner and is asked to travel on a hit assignment, but the novelty of such a request makes Henry suspicious. Realizing that Jimmy also plans to have him killed, Henry finally decides to become an informant and enroll with his family into the Witness Protection Program. Henry gives sufficient testimony and evidence in court to have Paulie and Jimmy convicted and moves to a nondescript neighborhood in accordance with the program. Henry describes his unhappiness in leaving his exciting and turbulent gangster life, now being condemned to live the rest of his life as a boring, average schnook. About the film, Goodfellas is directed by Martin Scorsese, written by Nicholas Pileggi and Scorsese, and produced by Irwin Winkler. It is a film adaptation of the 1985 nonfiction book Wiseguy by Pileggi. The cast includes Ray Liotta, Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci, Lorraine Bracco, and Paul Sorvino. Goodfellas was filmed on location in New York City, with meticulous attention to detail. Director Martin Scorsese and cinematographer Michael Ballhaus used innovative techniques, including long tracking shots and Steadicam sequences, creating a dynamic visual style that became a hallmark of the film. The soundtrack of Goodfellas features an eclectic mix of classic tracks, perfectly complementing the narrative. Songs like Layla by Derek and the Dominoes and Gimme Shelter by the Rolling Stones are seamlessly integrated, enhancing the film's atmosphere. Goodfellas premiered on September 9, 1990, at the Venice Film Festival. It had its wide release in the United States on September 19, 1990. With a production budget of approximately $25 million, Goodfellas went on to achieve commercial success. At the box office, it grossed over $46 million globally. Upon release, Goodfellas received widespread critical acclaim. Critics praised its storytelling, performances, and Scorsese's direction. Joe Pesci's portrayal of Tommy DeVito earned him an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. Goodfellas has left an indelible mark on cinema. It is often regarded as one of the greatest films ever made, influencing subsequent crime dramas. Its impact on popular culture endures with references in various media. 10 interesting facts about Goodfellas movie. 1. According to Henry Hill, whose life was the basis for the book and film, Joe Pesci's portrayal of Tommy DeSimone was 90 to 99% accurate, with one notable exception. The real Tommy DeSimone was massively built. 2. According to Nicholas Pileggi, some mobsters were hired as extras to lend authenticity to scenes. 3. Robert De Niro wanted to use real money for the scene where Jimmy hands out money because he didn't like the way fake money felt in his hands. 4. Al Pacino was offered the role of Jimmy Conway. He turned it down due to fears of typecasting. 5. For the scene where Sonny Buns complains to Paulie, Martin Scorsese secretly told Tony Darrow to improvise more lines for his character without telling Paul Sorvino. Sorvino's confused reaction was real. 6. Martin Scorsese reportedly didn't want Ray Liotta to have contact with the real Henry Hill before filming because he had never directed Liotta before and didn't want Hill to influence Liotta. 7. The dinner scene with Tommy's mother was almost completely improvised, including Tommy asking his mother if he could borrow her butcher's knife and Jimmy's "hoof" comment. 8. The film, told from Henry Hill's perspective, portrays him as a major player in the world of organized crime. Real-life gangsters of that era have said that Hill was a minor figure. 9. Goodfellas shares 27 actors with television series The Sopranos. 10. The film's title was changed from Wiseguy to Goodfellas to avoid confusion with both the TV series Wiseguy, 1987, and the Brian De Palma film Wiseguys, 1986.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more interesting videos and don't forget to press like button and share.